AITA for refusing to give my sister the house I inherited from our parents. So here's the deal. I, 32M, recently inherited my childhood home from my parents, who passed away in a car accident about a year ago. It's been a rough time, and I've been trying to figure out what to do with the house ever since. I don't live there anymore, but the house is in the same small town where I grew up. I have a decent job in a big city about 2 hours away, so I've been commuting back and forth, trying to keep things in order and dealing with the grief of losing my parents. Now, my sister, 28F, who has always been a bit more, well, entitled, let's say, has a problem with me keeping the house. She thinks I should just hand it over to her because, according to her, she needs it more. She's been asking me for months to either sell it to her for a ridiculously low price or just give it to her outright. I've explained multiple times that I have my own financial responsibilities and living situation, and the house is something that I'm not ready to part with just yet. Here's the thing. My sister has always had a much different perspective on family and money than I have. Growing up, she was always the one to ask for help when things got tough, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but she tends to expect people to just give her what she wants without much effort on her part. Our parents always bailed her out whenever she got into trouble, whether it was credit card debt, a failed business venture, or even when she had trouble with rent. I was always the one who worked hard to get things on my own and never really asked for help. I didn't need to be treated like a charity case, and I think that's why my sister and I have a strained relationship at times. The situation got even more complicated when she told me that I was selfish for even considering selling the house and keeping the proceeds for myself. She said that our parents would have wanted her to have it, since she's been living in town and has a family of her own now. She pointed out that I'm not even using the house, and it's just sitting there empty. She argued that it was the least I could do to help her out, especially since she's been struggling financially lately. I tried to explain to her that our parents never left any specific instructions for who should get the house, and it was ultimately up to me as the heir. She didn't take that well and accused me of being cold and uncaring, saying that I was dishonoring our parents by not doing the right thing by her. To be honest, this has been a sore point for me because I feel like she's only interested in the house for what she can get out of it. My sister has never been great with money, and I'm honestly worried that if I gave her the house, she'd either ruin it or sell it for a fraction of its value just to pay off whatever bill she's accumulated. I've tried talking to her about her financial habits, but she always gets defensive and acts like I'm judging her. For the past few months, it's felt like every conversation has come back to this damn house. I've had to block her calls a couple of times because it was getting overwhelming, but that only seemed to make her more determined. She's even started involving our extended family in the conversation, trying to convince them that I'm being unreasonable. Last week, she showed up at my apartment unannounced, with her husband and kids in tow, and demanded to know why I hadn't come to my senses yet. They were all so angry and disappointed with me. It was like I was being attacked on all sides. I told her again that I wasn't giving up the house, and she lost it. She yelled at me for being greedy and heartless, and accused me of not caring about our family's legacy. At this point, I'm feeling really torn. Part of me feels like I should just give her the house to avoid all this drama and to make her happy, but the other part of me knows that it would be a huge mistake. I've worked hard for what I have, and I don't want to hand over something that I've inherited, especially if I have genuine plans for it in the future. My friends are split on the issue. Some say I'm within my rights to keep the house and that my sister is being entitled, while others say I should just give her the damn house and keep the peace. I've even had a few people suggest that I should sell it and split the money, but that just seems like it's opening up a whole new can of worms. So, AITA for refusing to give my sister the house? Or am I being too stubborn and selfish? I feel like I'm stuck between what's fair and what will keep the peace in the family, but I also don't want to regret my decision down the line. What should I do? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I, 27M, have an older sister, Lena, 29F, who I've always had a complicated relationship with. We've never been super close, but I've always tried to be supportive of her life choices. However, things took a major turn when I was 19, and she started dating Dan, 32M. Dan and I didn't get along from the start. He was always rude to me, dismissed my opinions, and tried to act like he was better than me. But I figure it was just a case of him being an arrogant guy, and I tried to stay out of their relationship as much as I could. That was until one night when Lena invited me to a party she was hosting at their apartment. At the time, I had just come out of a rough breakup, and I wasn't in the best place emotionally. I didn't want to go, but my sister insisted. I showed up and tried to keep to myself, but Dan kept making sarcastic remarks at me, calling me things like pathetic and weak. I let it slide for a while because I didn't want to cause a scene, but eventually, things escalated. He started mocking me in front of Lena and some of their friends, calling me a mama's boy and a loser who'll never amount to anything. Finally, I snapped and told him to back off. I wasn't looking for a fight, but I wasn't going to let him talk to me like that. He shoved me, and I lost my balance and fell. The situation got out of hand quickly after that. Dan pushed me to the ground and started yelling at me, calling me names. I was in shock, but Lena and the others just stood there, watching. It felt like no one cared. Eventually, I managed to get up and leave, but not before I saw Lena's face. She didn't do anything to stop him. She didn't even ask if I was okay. She just looked embarrassed and angry that I'd ruined the night. After that incident, I cut off all contact with Lena for a few months. I couldn't understand how she could stay with someone who had assaulted me, especially since she had always preached about standing up for the people you love. I tried talking to her about what had happened, but she denied it, claiming that I was overreacting and making a big deal out of nothing. Dan, of course, never apologized. Time went on, and Lena and Dan's relationship continued to escalate. Lena kept defending him, saying he was misunderstood and that I was just jealous of their relationship. I couldn't understand how she could continue dating a man who had physically hurt me, but I tried to move on. I distanced myself from her as much as possible, only attending family events when absolutely necessary. I couldn't bring myself to forgive Dan, and I definitely couldn't trust Lena anymore. Fast forward a few years. Lena and Dan are now engaged, and she's planning her wedding. I got an invitation, and my heart sank. I knew this day was coming, but I wasn't prepared for the emotional fallout. I couldn't fathom attending a wedding where Dan would be there, let alone celebrating their relationship. It was too much. I had already distanced myself from my sister, but this was different. This felt like a betrayal on an entirely new level. I decided to have a conversation with Lena about it. I told her that I couldn't attend her wedding because of Dan. I explained that he assaulted me and that I could never, in good conscience, celebrate their relationship. I didn't expect her to understand, but I thought she'd at least listen to my reasons. Her reaction was less than understanding. She called me a child for bringing up something that happened years ago and accused me of trying to ruin her happiness. She said that if I really loved her, I would get over it and be there for her on her special day. I told her that I couldn't just get over being assaulted and that it wasn't about her happiness. It was about me trying to protect my own mental and emotional well-being. I told her that I didn't expect her to break up with Dan, but I couldn't support their marriage. She said I was being selfish and dramatic and that I should just put my feelings aside for one day. Since then, our family has been torn apart. My parents are split on the issue. My mom thinks I should just go to the wedding for the sake of family unity, while my dad agrees with me that I shouldn't have to pretend everything's fine when it's not. My sister is furious with me and says I've ruined her wedding by being so stubborn. Some extended family members have weighed in, too, with a few of them saying I'm in the right for not wanting to be around someone who hurt me, while others think I'm being unreasonable and holding on to grudges. To be honest, I've been questioning myself a lot lately. I feel like I'm being gaslit by Lena. I've tried to be patient and understanding, but it feels like she's minimizing what happened and dismissing my pain. I know I can't change how she feels, but I'm wondering if I'm being too harsh by refusing to attend the wedding. Am I the asshole for refusing to support my sister's marriage when I can't forgive the man who hurt me? AITA for not attending my sister's wedding because I can't forgive the man who assaulted me? AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids stay with me after she lied about their behavior. I, 31F, have one sister, Jess, 34F. Jess and I were always pretty close growing up, but things started to get a little strained when she got married and had kids. I don't have children of my own, and while I like kids in general, I'm definitely not the type to be a mom figure. Jess has 3 kids, Ryan, 7, Emma, 5, and Noah, 3. They're great kids, but they can be a lot, especially when they get into their wild modes, which is often. My husband, Mike, 32M, and I have a pretty quiet home. We enjoy peace and downtime, especially after long work days. We don't have much space either, just a 2-bedroom apartment. And we've always been pretty clear with Jess that we're happy to help with her kids when needed, but we can't be a primary caregiver or have them over for long periods. A couple of months ago, Jess hit me up asking if I could take care of her kids for a week while she and her husband went on a much-needed vacation. She said she and her husband hadn't had any time to themselves in a while, and they needed a break. Normally, I'd be a little hesitant because of the space issue and the fact that I don't have a kid-friendly setup, but I agreed because I wanted to help. Now, I should mention that Jess has a way of presenting things that sometimes feels a little rosy. She tends to downplay any issues with her kids when talking to me and makes it sound like they're angels. So when she asked me to take them in, I figure it wouldn't be that bad. After all, I love my niece and nephews, and I thought a week wouldn't be too hard. The first few days weren't awful, but I quickly realized that Jess had downplayed how chaotic things were going to be. Ryan and Emma, especially, were constantly arguing, screaming, and running around like they were in a competition to see who could be the loudest. Noah, the youngest, cried almost every time I tried to get him a nap, and when he wasn't crying, he was spilling stuff everywhere or getting into mischief. I texted Jess a few times, but she assured me that things were normal and that I should just let the kids blow off steam. At first, I tried to stay calm and go with the flow, but by the end of day 3, I was starting to feel overwhelmed. My apartment wasn't designed for 3 kids running around, and Mike and I weren't getting any downtime. I didn't want to call it quits too early because I didn't want to disappoint her, but I was close to my breaking point. Then things got worse. On the 4th day, Emma and Ryan had a massive fight that ended with Emma getting a bloody nose after Ryan pushed her. I had to rush Emma to the bathroom to clean her up, and when I got back to the living room, Ryan was sitting there, laughing. When I asked him why he thought it was funny, he shrugged and said, "Because she's stupid." I was furious. I called Jess to tell her what had happened, but when I explained the situation, she brushed it off and said I was being too sensitive. "They're just kids," she said. "They'll be fine." I was honestly stunned by her response. I was already stretched thin, and now I felt like she wasn't even taking me seriously. I hung up the phone and tried to figure out how to handle the situation. That night, after putting the kids to bed, I went into the living room and started to cry. Mike found me there, and when I explained how overwhelmed I felt, he told me I needed to have a serious conversation with Jess. He was right. I had been trying to do too much without setting proper boundaries, and it was taking a toll on me. The next day, I sent Jess a text saying that I was done with the week. I told her I couldn't keep watching the kids because it wasn't fair to me, and I wasn't equipped to handle their behavior. I also mentioned that I was disappointed she hadn't been more honest about how challenging it would be, and that I wasn't okay with the way she downplayed everything. Just call me almost immediately, and when I picked up, she went off. She accused me of backing out on her when she needed me the most, and said that I was being dramatic. She said I was acting like a victim, and that she had trusted me to be there for her. She even said that I should have just toughed it out, and that all parents go through tough times. I tried to explain that I wasn't saying I couldn't help at all, but that I couldn't handle a week of chaotic behavior in a tiny apartment. She didn't get it. Eventually, I told her I'd be happy to watch the kids for shorter periods, but I couldn't do a full week anymore. She called me selfish and said I didn't understand what it was like to be a parent, and that I was just throwing her under the bus when she was already stressed. I ended up cutting the conversation short because I was tired of being told I was wrong for setting a boundary. Jess ended up picking the kids up early and was clearly upset with me. Since then, we've barely spoken, and things are definitely awkward between us. My parents have gotten involved too. They're on Jess's side, of course, and they've been subtly pressuring me to apologize for not being more accommodating. Jess even posted on social media, saying how hurt she was by my actions and how family should always have each other's backs. I know I made the right call for myself, but part of me still feels guilty. I know Jess was stressed, and maybe I could have handled the situation differently, but I also feel like I can't be expected to sacrifice my own well-being just because she wants to go on vacation and didn't want to be honest about how difficult her kids could be. I don't feel like I owe her an apology, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm being too hard on her. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids stay with me after she lied about their behavior. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding after she ruined my bridal shower. I, 28F, am getting married in a few months to my fiancée, 29M, and we've been planning our wedding for about a year now. It's been stressful, but also really exciting. A few weeks ago, we had a bridal shower, and my sister, 34F, was one of the key people involved in planning it. I'll admit, I was a little nervous about her taking charge, as she can be kind of a whirlwind, but I love her, and I figured everything would be fine. Well, everything wasn't fine. To give some context, my sister has 2 kids, a 7-year-old girl, Lily, and a 4-year-old boy, Max, and they're challenging. I've always been the fun aunt who spoils them with gifts and let them do whatever they want when they visit. But I'll admit that I don't enjoy spending too much time with them because they're a handful. My sister, on the other hand, never seems to notice or care when her kids are being disruptive. She's often been the kind of mom who lets her kids get away with whatever they want, and she's been pretty vocal about not believing in traditional discipline, even though her kids are unruly. Anyway, the bridal shower was planned to be an adults-only event. We had rented a nice venue, and I wanted it to be a quiet, sophisticated gathering with close friends and family. When I sent out the invitations, I made it clear that no children would be invited, except for Lily and Max, because I thought my sister would want them to be there and I didn't want to offend her. The day of the shower comes, and everything starts off well enough. The decorations are beautiful, the food is delicious, and the guests are mingling. Then, my sister shows up, and she's not alone. She brought both of her kids with her. I was caught off guard, and I try not to let it show, but I was honestly pissed. I tried to tell her in front of everyone, "Hey, I thought we agreed this was going to be an adults-only event." She just waved me off and said, "Oh, they're fine. They'll behave. They won't cause any trouble." Spoiler, they did cause trouble. From the moment Lily and Max arrived, they started running around the venue, screaming, knocking things over, and demanding snacks. Lily wanted to play with the centerpieces. Max was throwing crayons at the walls, and neither of them had any concept of personal space. I was mortified, and all of my guests were looking at me like I was the one who had allowed this chaos to happen. I tried to keep things under control, but it was clear that my sister wasn't going to do anything about it. Every time I mentioned the kids were being disruptive, she'd just brush me off and say something like, "Oh, they're just excited," or "Don't worry, they're not that bad." The entire atmosphere of the bridal shower changed because of her kids. I could see that my friends were uncomfortable, and some even started leaving early because they couldn't stand the noise. The tipping point came when Lily knocked over a drink that was spilled on one of my best friend's dresses. My friend was furious, and she tried to tell my sister what had happened, but my sister just acted like it was no big deal. The worst part was that my sister didn't even apologize. Instead, she gave a half-hearted excuse about how Lily was just clumsy and that my friend should have been more careful. At that moment, I had had enough. I went to my sister, told her she needed to take her kids home because they were ruining the event and that they weren't welcome at the wedding either if she couldn't control them. She was livid and immediately started yelling at me in front of everyone, saying I was being a brat and ungrateful for the help she'd put into the bridal shower. She told me that it was my fault I was so uptight and that I was being selfish by not letting her kids enjoy my special day. I felt like I was in a nightmare. Since the shower, my sister and I haven't spoken much, and the tension has been building. Now, the issue of her kids at my wedding has come up. I've told her I don't want them there because I don't feel like she can control their behavior, and I don't want them causing a scene during my ceremony. She's upset, and it's been causing major drama in our family. Some of our relatives think I'm being too harsh and that I should just let it go, but others agree that I have every right to make my wedding a child-free event. My fiancé agrees with me and thinks it's ridiculous that she would think she can bring her kids to our wedding after the way they behaved at the shower. I'm starting to feel like I've been a little too hard on her, especially since I don't want to cause any lasting damage to our relationship. But at the same time, I don't think I should have to sacrifice my wedding day just to make her happy. It's my day, and I want to feel comfortable, not stressed out about her kids running around and ruining everything. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding after she ruined my bridal shower? So, here's the situation. My husband, James, and I have been married for 5 years. We don't have any kids yet, but we've been talking about starting a family soon. We live in a modest but nice 3-bedroom house in a suburban area, and things have been going smoothly. James has a full-time job, I work part-time from home, and we're both pretty settled. Now, the problem started about 3 months ago when my sister-in-law, Lucy, came to us with a huge favor. Lucy is 28, and she's had a string of bad luck when it comes to housing. She's been renting a place in a nearby city for a couple of years, but apparently she got into some trouble with her landlord over unpaid rent. There were also some issues with her housemates, and they ended up getting her evicted. She's always had a bit of a reckless streak when it comes to managing her finances, and we've been worried about her for a while. But despite all that, we've always tried to be there for her. When she came to us, she said she had nowhere to go and asked if she could move in with us temporarily until she could get back on her feet. She promised it would only be for a few months at most, and she'd help with bills and chores. She's very close to James. She's his younger sister, and they've always had a solid relationship. I, on the other hand, have a more complicated relationship with her. We get along, but she can be a bit chaotic. She doesn't have the best sense of responsibility, and she has a tendency to put things off until the last minute. That being said, she's family, so I told her we would think about it. James was all for it. He didn't want to see his sister on the streets, and I understood that. But I wasn't sure. I had a gut feeling that having her stay with us wouldn't be as simple as she made it sound. After talking it over, I told James the first wasn't comfortable with the idea, at least not right now. We don't have a huge house, and adding another person to the mix, especially someone with Lucy's track record, felt like it would disrupt our routine. Plus, I worried about the long-term impact on our relationship with her. After a few days, I finally gave in and agreed to let Lucy stay with us temporarily. But I set some clear ground rules. First, she would have to pay rent, nothing crazy, just a fair contribution to the bills. Second, she'd have to keep her part of the house tidy and not leave stuff lying around. I told her I couldn't handle having her disrupt our lives more than necessary. She agreed, and we thought that would be the end of it. The first few weeks went relatively smoothly. Lucy paid her share of the rent and helped out around the house a little. But as time went on, things started to unravel. First, she stopped paying rent on time, and then, when we reminded her, she would make excuses. She would say she was waiting for a paycheck or that she had spent more money than expected. Eventually, she just stopped offering to contribute altogether, and when we asked, she would get defensive. Around the same time, she began neglecting her chores. The house would get messy, and I'd be the one to clean up, while she just hung out in the living room or disappeared into her room. It became clear that the temporary situation was turning into something much more permanent, and I was starting to feel resentful. After 2 months of this, I sat down with James to talk about it. I told him I was getting frustrated with how things were going and that I didn't think we could keep this arrangement up much longer. I explained that Lucy wasn't holding up her end of the bargain, and I didn't feel like we were in a position to keep enabling her behavior. James was upset. He said that I was being too hard on Lucy and that we should be more understanding of her situation. I reminded him that she had been given ample time to get things together, and it wasn't fair for us to carry her while she kept making excuses. Things came to a head when Lucy started bringing her friends over late at night without asking. They would sit in the living room, drink, and make noise until the early hours of the morning. James didn't mind at first, but it started to affect my sleep, and I wasn't getting any work done. When I confronted Lucy about it, she blew up, saying I was being controlling and that I needed to chill out. I told her that if she was going to live under our roof, she had to respect our rules, and she needed to be more considerate. At that point, I had had enough. I told James that it wasn't working, and I couldn't live like this anymore. He got angry, and we argued. He told me I was being unsympathetic and that Lucy was going through a rough time and needed us. I told him that it wasn't fair for me to bear the brunt of it, and it was starting to feel like we were enabling her to stay in this cycle of irresponsibility. He didn't understand and said that I was being unreasonable. He said we couldn't just kick her out and that we had to find a way to make it work. After a week of tense silence, Lucy finally approached me. She said she understood my frustration and apologized, but then she dropped a bombshell. She wanted to extend her stay for another 6 months. She said she was still figuring things out, and that moving out was just too much pressure. I was furious. That was the last straw. I told her that was unacceptable and that she needed to find another place to live immediately. I explained that we had given her plenty of chances, and it wasn't fair to keep living like this. Lucy was livid and stormed off, and James was furious with me. He said I was being too harsh and that I was making a mountain out of a molehill. I told him AITA for not letting my sister attend my wedding after she ruined my bridal shower. I, 28F, am getting married to my fiancé, James, 30M, in a couple of months. We've been together for about 5 years, and everything has been going smoothly until recently. I have a younger sister, Emily, 24F, who has always been a bit of a troublemaker, but we've gotten along well for the most part. Our relationship has had its ups and downs over the years, but nothing major that would have made me think we couldn't celebrate something as special as my wedding together. I've been pretty hands-off with my wedding planning, and I've been relying heavily on my mom and a few close friends to help me with the details. My bridal shower was coming up, and I had high hopes for it. I imagined it being a relaxing, fun day where I could bond with the women closest to me. But unfortunately, my sister turned it into a total disaster. Emily was one of the people I asked to help with the shower. I trusted her to handle a few of the small details, like arranging the food and making sure we had enough seating. She was excited and even seemed to enjoy the process at first. However, as the day of the event approached, things started to go south. The first red flag was when Emily started making passive-aggressive comments about the guest list. There were a few people I didn't invite because they were distant family members I didn't feel close to, and she kept insisting I should invite them. I politely told her that I'd already made the decisions and it wasn't personal, but she didn't let it go. She would bring it up constantly, even in front of other guests, which made me uncomfortable. At this point, I tried to just ignore it because I didn't want any drama. When the day of the shower finally arrived, things took a turn for the worse. My mom had arranged for a beautiful venue at a local park, and the decorations were perfect. The vibe was supposed to be calm and sophisticated, but Emily decided that she wanted to spice things up. She showed up in a completely different outfit than what I had envisioned. While I asked everyone to wear something semi-formal, Emily wore a tight, glittery dress with a plunging neckline and heels that looked way too much for a casual gathering. She immediately started getting attention from the other guests, which made me uncomfortable because it felt like the focus shifted to her instead of me. As the day went on, Emily started pushing my buttons more and more. She openly made fun of the party games I had planned and tried to suggest new ones that were inappropriate for the occasion. For example, she suggested we play a game where everyone had to guess who had the most sexual experience, including some very personal questions about me and my fiancé. I quickly shut that down, but she wasn't having it. She acted offended that I wasn't playing along and continued to make snarky remarks under her breath. The worst part came during the gift exchange. I had set up a small table where people could leave their gifts, and I was planning on thanking each person individually during the party. Emily, however, decided it was a good idea to make a joke out of it. As I was opening a gift from one of my friends, she stood up and made a loud comment to the group, saying something like, "Let's see what trash we're getting this time." Everyone went silent. I was mortified, and honestly, I felt humiliated. My mom gave Emily a dirty look, but I could see that Emily was just having fun with the attention, and it was clear that no one was enjoying it. I eventually had to step away for a bit to collect myself. I went to the bathroom to calm down, and when I returned, Emily was in the middle of another one of her jokes. This time, she was talking loudly about my fiancé, James. She said something like, "I can't believe you're marrying him. He's kind of a loser, don't you think?" I was beyond angry at this point, and I confronted her immediately. I told her that if she couldn't respect me or the event, she should leave. She tried to make excuses, but I wasn't having it. The atmosphere was so tense after that, and most of the other guests seemed uncomfortable. My mom tried to smooth things over, but it was clear that Emily had ruined the mood. After a few more awkward hours, the party wrapped up, and I was exhausted, upset, and honestly embarrassed. I felt like the whole day had been hijacked by my sister, and I couldn't even enjoy the celebration. A few days later, I sat down with my mom and explained how I felt. I told her that I didn't want Emily at the wedding if she couldn't act like an adult. My mom was furious with me for overreacting and causing drama, but I stood my ground. Emily texted me afterward and apologized, but I could tell it was half-hearted. She didn't seem to really understand what she'd done wrong, and when I asked her to take responsibility, she just brushed it off, saying that I was being too sensitive. Now, a few weeks later, I've decided that I don't want her at my wedding. I've told my mom, and she's furious with me, saying that I'm being too harsh. She claims I'm letting a small issue ruin what could be a great relationship with my sister. But I'm just so upset about what happened, and I don't want someone who clearly doesn't respect me to be a part of my special day. So, AITA for not letting my sister come to my wedding after how she behaved in my bridal shower. AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids come to my wedding after she made a scene at my engagement party. 28F, am getting married to my fiancé, 31M, in a couple of months, and while everything is coming together, there's been a lot of drama surrounding my sister, Kayla, 33F, and her kids. To give you some context, I've always had a somewhat strained relationship with my sister. We grew up together, but she always seemed to get more attention than me. She's one of those people who can make everything about herself without realizing it. Growing up, she was always the star of the show, and I was just kind of there. Fast forward to adulthood, and it's still the same. She's married with 2 kids, ages 5 and 3, but she still wants to be the center of attention at every family event. It doesn't help that she often expects other people to bend over backwards for her and her family, but I've learned to put boundaries in place over the years. When my fiancé and I got engaged, we decided to throw an engagement party. We invited our closest family and friends, and while I wanted it to be a special night, I was also hoping for a relaxed event with no drama. I should have known better. The party was going well at first. We had food, drinks, music, and everyone was having a good time. But about an hour in, I started noticing Kayla getting upset. She was making passive-aggressive comments, and at one point, I overheard her saying something to my mom about how it wasn't fair that she wasn't the one getting all the attention for once. It struck me as odd, but I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was just overthinking things. Things took a turn when Kayla's kids started running around, causing chaos. They were knocking things over, yelling, and generally being pretty loud for an adult gathering. I love my nieces and nephews, but I also understand that an engagement party isn't exactly the place for a free-for-all. I politely asked Kayla if she could keep her kids under control, and she immediately snapped at me in front of everyone, saying, "I can't control them. You know how kids are." I calmly replied, "I do, but maybe it would be good for them to have a quiet moment." Kayla then started making a scene, saying I was being unreasonable and how her kids always get treated like this at family events. She implied that I didn't want them there at all. I tried to explain that it wasn't about them, but she wasn't hearing it. My fiancé and I ended up having to move the event outdoors because her kids were running inside and knocking things over, and Kayla just kept making sarcastic remarks and eye rolls every time we tried to redirect them. That night, after everyone had gone home, I texted my sister to say that I wanted to clear the air. I told her that while I loved her and her kids, I felt like the engagement party had become about her drama instead of celebrating our engagement. I told her I was disappointed in how she handled the situation and that I didn't appreciate the way she treated me. Her response? "You're making a big deal out of nothing. You're just pissed because I made your perfect little party less perfect." That didn't sit well with me, and it was clear to me that she didn't understand how her behavior was hurtful. Since then, there's been tension between us, and she's made a couple of comments about not knowing if I'd even want her to be in the wedding. To be clear, I had always planned on having her as my maid of honor, but after that incident, I started second-guessing everything. So here's where I might be the asshole. I recently decided that I didn't want Kayla's kids at my wedding. I sent her a message, explaining that while I loved her children, I wanted a more adult-oriented event where the focus could be on the ceremony and the celebration of my marriage. I told her that, after everything that happened at the engagement party, I felt it was best to keep the wedding child free. Kayla responded with fury. She called me selfish and ungrateful and said I was ruining her relationship with her kids. She said it was incredibly hurtful that I wouldn't want them there, and now she's threatening not to attend at all if her kids aren't invited. She said that I was essentially choosing my fiancé over her kids, and that it was wrong of me to not want to include them. I understand that my sister's kids are a big part of her life, and I know she's upset, but I'm starting to feel like I need to prioritize my own happiness and my own wedding day. I don't want it to be overshadowed by drama, and I don't want to have to worry about what will happen if her kids act out again. I don't think I should have to apologize for wanting a peaceful, drama-free event, but part of me wonders if I should just let it go and invite her kids to avoid causing even more conflict. My fiancé says he supports my decision, but he's also a bit uncomfortable with the potential fallout. Some of my other family members think I'm being too harsh, while others are telling me I have every right to make the decision that feels right for me. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids come to my wedding? Or should I be more accommodating to keep the peace? AITA for not allowing my brother-in-law to move into my house after his marriage fell apart? So, a little background. I, 32F, have been married to my husband Mike, 34M, for 6 years. We don't have kids, and we're pretty stable financially and emotionally. Mike has an older brother, Adam, 37M, who has been married to Rachel, 36F, for the past 10 years. They have 2 kids, 8 and 5, but their marriage fell apart recently after Adam found out that Rachel had been having an affair. Rachel moved out and took the kids with her. I know the situation is messy, and while I feel bad for Adam, I have a really complicated relationship with him. When Mike and I first started dating, Adam wasn't exactly welcoming. He was openly hostile towards me, making comments about how I wasn't good enough for his brother. He never outright said it, but he made it clear that he didn't think Mike should settle down so early and that he should be having more fun with his life. After Mike and I got married, Adam's behavior didn't really improve. He'd make passive-aggressive remarks about me and my family, and it always felt like he was trying to make Mike feel guilty for getting married and settling down. To be honest, he's always come off as a bit of a jerk, and I never really warmed up to him. Anyway, a few months ago, when Adam's marriage fell apart, he reached out to Mike asking if he could stay with us for a little while until he got back on his feet. At first, I was sympathetic. I mean, I can't imagine what he's going through, and it's really hard to have your whole life turned upside down. But I didn't think it would be a good idea for him to move in. Mike was on board with the idea, but I wasn't. It's not that I don't feel bad for Adam. I do, but I just don't want him living under our roof. There are several reasons why I'm hesitant about having him stay with us. First of all, I know that Adam has never really respected me or our relationship. I'm not interested in living with someone who openly dislikes me and doesn't respect my boundaries. Second, our house is not big enough for another person to live here long term. We have a spare bedroom, but it's really just an office that I use for work, and I don't want to have to give it up. I also value my space and privacy, and I think living with Adam would create a lot of tension. Mike and I had several discussions about this, and he kept pushing for me to be more understanding. He said that Adam was in a really bad place, and that we could help him by letting him stay for a few weeks until he got his life back together. I told Mike that I didn't think it was a good idea, but I also knew that Mike was kind of stuck between wanting to help his brother and wanting to respect my wishes. Eventually, Mike agreed that we would talk to Adam and tell him that we couldn't have him move in, but that we would help him find other options. When we told Adam that we couldn't accommodate him, he was furious. He immediately started accusing me of being selfish and not caring about family. He said that I was making this all about myself, and that I wasn't showing him the support he needed during this tough time. He even said that it was unfair of me to expect him to just figure out on his own when his entire life was falling apart. I was taken aback by how hostile he was, especially since we hadn't even told him no yet. He then started accusing me of trying to control Mike and saying that I was undermining their family bond. He implied that if Mike was a real brother, he would be there for him no matter what. At this point, Mike got really upset, and they started arguing back and forth. I stayed quiet for most of it because I was frustrated, but I couldn't help but feel like Adam was trying to make this about me when it really wasn't. I wasn't the one who caused his marriage to fall apart, and I wasn't the one who was making his life difficult. All I wanted was to maintain some peace and privacy in my own home. After the argument, Adam called Mike several times, demanding that he talk to me and convince me to let him stay. Mike kept coming to me, trying to convince me to change my mind. I tried to explain to him again that it wasn't about not wanting to help Adam. It was about the fact that having him here would just cause tension and stress. I also pointed out that Adam could probably find a temporary rental or stay with some other family members for a while. Eventually, Adam gave up and found a friend to stay with for the time being. He still isn't happy with me, and he hasn't spoken to me much since then. Mike and I have had a couple of arguments about this, but it's not been as bad as when Adam was trying to move in. Here's the thing. I know Mike feels caught in the middle, but I don't think it's fair for me to just sacrifice my space and comfort because Adam is going through a tough time. I've always been the type of person who values peace and boundaries in my home, and I don't think I should have to compromise that for someone who doesn't even respect me. On top of that, Adam has made it clear in the past that he doesn't like me, so it feels like I'd be opening myself up to more negativity and hostility. But now, I feel like I'm the villain in this situation. Mike's family keeps telling me that I'm being too rigid and that I should just put family first, but I feel like I'm being reasonable. Am I the asshole for not letting my brother-in-law move in? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for kicking my brother out of my wedding after he made a scene about my dress. So, here's the deal. I, 28F, recently got married to the love of my life, Josh, 30M, in what was supposed to be the best day of our lives. My family is pretty big, and I've always been close to my parents and siblings. I have two brothers, Matt, 35M, and Josh, 32M, both of whom I get along with well for the most part, though Matt and I have had our issues over the years. To give some context, my wedding was a big deal. It was in a beautiful venue, a mix of outdoor and indoor with about 150 guests. I've always dreamed of having a fairy tale wedding, and I put a lot of time, effort, and money into it. My dress was something I had been eyeing for months. It was a gorgeous, fitted gown with delicate lace detailing, a cathedral veil, and a bit of sparkle. I felt amazing in it when I tried it on, and it felt perfect for me. Now, on to the main issue. Matt and his wife, Emily, 34F, are a bit, well, dramatic. They always want attention and can't stand to be outshined. This has been a long-standing issue between us. I've never been the kind of person to flaunt my life or make a big deal about anything, but Matt always had a way of making everything about himself. For example, he made a huge scene at my birthday dinner last year because someone complimented me, and he said something like, "It's not all about you, you know." But I digress. The real issue happened the day of my wedding. Everything was going smoothly. I was getting ready with my bridesmaids. My parents were running around making sure everything was perfect, and Josh was getting ready with his groomsmen. When I was finally ready and walked down the aisle, I could see Matt's face in the crowd. His expression was strange, kind of a mix between disgust and confusion, which immediately made me feel uncomfortable. But I shrugged it off and focused on the ceremony. Everything went fine until the reception. During the cocktail hour, Matt came up to me with Emily in tow. He had this weird smile on his face, and I could tell something was off. He said, "So, are you happy with your choice of dress?" His tone was condescending, like he was trying to get under my skin. I wasn't sure what he meant by that, so I just said, "Yeah, I love it. It's everything I wanted." He then casually said, "I mean, it's a little much, don't you think? I've never seen a dress so sparkly. It kind of makes you look like a Christmas tree." Now, mind you, I've been getting compliments all day about how beautiful my dress was. People loved the way it shimmered, and the lace was elegant, not over the top. It was exactly what I wanted, but Matt had this way of trying to downplay anything that wasn't his idea of classy. I just laughed it off because I didn't want to get into it, but Emily chimed in, "Honestly, I agree with Matt. It's a little too much. I mean, you're beautiful and all, but it just doesn't seem subtle." She gave me this fake, sweet smile, and I could tell she was trying to make me feel small. I've never had the best relationship with her, and I don't know why she felt the need to throw in her 2 cents. I tried to stay calm and said, "Well, I love it, and I feel great in it. Thanks for the feedback, though." Matt wasn't done, though. He leaned in closer and said, "You know, you're not really supposed to be the center of attention today. It's a wedding, not a fashion show. You should have toned it down a bit. No one's looking at Josh anymore." At that point, I was beyond irritated, but I still tried to remain calm. I told them both, "This is my wedding, and I've put a lot of thought into everything, including my dress. I'm sorry you don't like it, but it's not your day." Matt's face turned red, and he started to get loud. He said, "I'm just saying, if you're going to wear something that extravagant, you better back it up with a personality. Otherwise, it just looks like you're trying too hard." I could feel the tension building in the room, and I knew I had to say something before this got worse. At this point, I was not in the mood for his games, and I wasn't going to let him ruin my day. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Matt, you've been nothing but a pain in the ass today. If you don't like my dress, that's fine, but I don't appreciate you trying to make me feel bad about it. If you can't be happy for me today, then I think it's best if you leave." His eyes went wide, and I could tell he didn't expect me to stand up for myself. But instead of backing down, he snapped, "You're really going to throw me out of your wedding over a stupid dress?" His voice was getting louder, and people were starting to look at us. I stood firm and said, "Yes, I am. I've had enough of your negativity, and I'm not going to let you ruin this day for me." I turned to Emily and said, "If you want to leave too, feel free. But I'm not dealing with this." Matt stormed off, and Emily followed him, muttering something about how I was overreacting. The rest of the night was a little tense, but I didn't let it bother me. My wedding was amazing, and Josh and I had the time of our lives. I was upset that Matt ruined part of the day, but I don't regret asking him to leave. Afterward, my parents and a few other family members called me to ask what happened. They all knew that Matt had been acting weird, but a lot of them thought I overreacted by kicking him out. Some said I should have just ignored him and not let him get under my skin. Others said I had every right to stand up for myself. Now I'm wondering if I went too far. Was I wrong for asking my brother to leave over something so trivial? AITA for kicking him out of my wedding? AITA for refusing to let my sister use my wedding dress because her wedding is sooner and her dress is too tight? So for some background, I, 28F, got engaged to my fiancée, 29M, almost a year ago, and our wedding is in 6 months. I've been planning it for a while, and I'm beyond excited. The wedding dress is something I've been dreaming about for a long time. I had a clear vision of what I wanted from the start, and I found the perfect dress months ago. It's beautiful, and I love it. It's even more special because my mom wore it at her wedding, and it was passed down to me when she passed away a few years ago. I've always known I would wear it, and I can't imagine wearing anything else. My sister, 31F, is also getting married, but her wedding is in just 2 months. She got engaged around the same time as me, but she's been a lot more laid back about the planning. She didn't even really start looking for a dress until a couple of months ago. And honestly, she didn't put much thought into it. She bought a dress that she liked at the store, but it was a little tight in certain areas. She figured it was fine, and she'd just lose some weight before the wedding to fit into it better. The problem is her wedding is in 2 months, and she hasn't lost the weight she intended to. She tried to get it altered, but they said it wouldn't be possible to make the dress fit without major changes, which would drastically alter the look of it. So now she's in a bit of panic. A couple of days ago, she asked me if she could borrow my wedding dress. She said it would save her a ton of stress and money since she wouldn't have to buy another dress. She said she's always loved my dress and that it would mean so much to her to wear it. At first, I thought she was joking, but she was totally serious. I told her no immediately. I was taken aback, honestly, and I didn't even know what to say at first. The dress means so much to me. It's a family heirloom, and it's been passed down to me with a lot of love and sentimentality. I've already pictured myself wearing it, and I'm not comfortable with the idea of anyone else wearing it for their wedding. She was really upset and started crying, saying that I was being selfish. She pointed out that her wedding is before mine and that it would be a huge favor for me to help her out. She also said that I'm already going to wear it, and it's not like she's asking for it permanently. She just needs it for one day, and then I can have it back. She accused me of trying to hog the dress for myself and said that if I really loved her, I'd let her wear it since she's been struggling with her own wedding plans. I feel terrible, but at the same time, I don't think I'm wrong. The dress is something deeply personal to me, and I've been dreaming of wearing it for my wedding for years. It's not just a piece of clothing. It's part of my connection to my mom and my family. I don't want anyone else to wear it, especially not when I've already had so much time imagining myself in it. But I also don't want to hurt my sister. I get that her wedding dress situation is stressful, but I don't feel like I should give up something that's so important to me. She said I was being precious about it, and that I'm not thinking of her feelings. Now, I'm wondering if I've been too hard on her. I understand that wedding planning can be stressful, and I want to be a supportive sister, but at the same time, I think my feelings are valid, too. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister wear my wedding dress? I feel like I've tried to explain myself, but she's still upset, and I don't know if I'm being unreasonable. Edit. Just to clarify, I offered to help her find another dress, but she's really attached to the one she picked and doesn't want to shop for another one. She insists it will fit if she loses the weight, but it's been stressing her out so much that I think it's more about the pressure she's feeling than actual logic. Also, I've already told her multiple times that I'd help with whatever else I can, like helping with last-minute wedding stuff or offering emotional support, but I don't want to part with the dress. It's just one of those things that's a hard line for me. I'm trying to be a good sister, but I also don't want to feel like I'm being guilted into doing something I'm not comfortable with. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she got engaged to my ex-fiancé. I, 29F, have a sister, Lily, 26F, and we've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child. Our parents always praised her for being the perfect daughter, while I was the rebellious one. We never really got along, but things got worse after I got engaged to my ex, Jason, 31M. To give you some context, Jason and I were together for 5 years before we called off our engagement last year. It was a messy breakup, and the end of our relationship still stings. We had a lot of plans together, and I really thought he was the one. After the breakup, I took some time to focus on myself. I didn't want to talk to anyone about it, especially not my family, because I was just devastated. But Lily, for whatever reason, decided to stay in touch with Jason. I try not to let it bother me, because it was a free world and I couldn't stop anyone from doing what they wanted. But things started to get weird. Jason and Lily started hanging out more, texting, and calling each other often. At first, I thought maybe it was just comfort for both of them. They knew each other, and she probably wanted to help him through the breakup too. But then, a few months ago, I found out that they had been seeing each other romantically for a while. I was absolutely crushed. I felt betrayed by both of them. My sister, of all people, was dating the man I had loved for years. It felt like a knife to the heart, and I was furious. I confronted Lily about it, and she apologized, saying that she didn't mean for it to happen like this, and that she understood how much it hurt me. But she also said that she and Jason had real feelings for each other now, and they didn't want to hide it anymore. She begged me to understand. I told her that I couldn't. To me, it felt like they had taken something precious from me, and I couldn't get over it. I told my parents about the situation, and they didn't take it well either. They tried to stay neutral, but I could tell that they were disappointed in both of them. I didn't speak to Lily for a few months after that, and I struggled with the idea of ever forgiving her or Jason. Then, a few weeks ago, I got a call from Lily saying that she had gotten engaged to Jason. She wanted me to be a part of the wedding, and she was hoping I could help with some of the planning. Honestly, I was still in shock, and I told her I needed some time to think about it. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Here she was, marrying the man I had been planning to spend the rest of my life with, and she was asking me for help? I didn't feel like I owed her anything at this point. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with it, and that I wasn't interested in participating in their wedding in any way. I made it clear that I didn't want to be involved, and I didn't want to be part of a celebration that felt like a slap in the face. Well, that's when things got even more complicated. Lily was hurt, of course. She told me that I was being petty and that I should just let go of the past. She accused me of holding a grudge over something that wasn't her fault, and that I was being selfish for refusing to support her. My parents called me soon after and told me that I was being unreasonable. They said that I was hurting my sister by refusing to attend the wedding and that I was making it all about me. They both insisted that I should just put my feelings aside and be there for Lily on her big day. I've been getting a lot of pressure from friends and family to move on and stop making a scene, but I feel like they're all glossing over the fact that Lily and Jason crossed a huge line. It's not just about the fact that they're together. It's about the betrayal. I feel like I'm being asked to just forget everything that happened and pretend like it doesn't matter. I haven't decided yet if I'll go or not. A part of me thinks that maybe I should just go for the sake of my family and put my personal feelings aside. But then I remember how hurt I feel, and I just can't bring myself to do it. I don't think I'm being unreasonable by wanting to protect myself and my emotions. But my family seems to think that I'm being too dramatic. So, AITA for refusing to pay for or participate in my sister's wedding after she got engaged to my ex-fiancé? Should I just suck it up and show up for the sake of family? Or do I have a right to put my foot down and say no? AITA for telling my sister she's not welcome at my wedding after she ruined my engagement party? I, 29F, am getting married in 6 months to my fiancé, Tom, 32M. We've been together for 5 years, and he's absolutely amazing. My family has always been supportive of us, and my sister, Kate, 34F, has always been a bit difficult. Not outright mean or malicious, but she has a way of making everything about her, often without realizing it. I've tried to be patient with her over the years, but she's done things that have left me feeling hurt and frustrated more times than I can count. Last month, we had an engagement party at my parents' house. Tom and I invited close family and friends, including Kate. I wasn't expecting anything fancy, just a casual gathering with drinks, food, and a little celebration. Everything was going great for the first couple of hours. People were mingling, laughing, eating, and I was feeling really happy to be surrounded by everyone I love. Then things took a turn. Kate, who had been quiet for most of the evening, suddenly grabbed the mic. We had a karaoke machine set up for fun and announced that she had an important announcement to make. Tom and I were kind of confused, but I figured it was some kind of joke or maybe she was going to say something funny. Instead, she went on this long, emotional monologue about how she's been struggling with her own life and how everyone else around her always gets the attention while she's constantly overlooked. She made it clear that she felt jealous of Tom and me for being happy and getting all this celebration while she's stuck in her own life with no one caring about her. The whole room fell silent. I could feel my blood starting to boil, but I didn't want to cause a scene, so I just awkwardly laughed it off and tried to get the mic back. But Kate wasn't done. She started talking about how she's still waiting for her happily ever after and how she feels like a failure because she hasn't found someone like I did. She even said that she felt like she was being forced to watch everyone else's dreams come true while hers just fall apart. I was so uncomfortable. It wasn't the time or place for any of this. Everyone had been celebrating my engagement, and now Kate was turning it into this weird pity party about her own issues. At this point, I was getting upset, and I just wanted her to stop. Tom was looking at me, clearly confused, and I saw some of my other guests visibly cringing. Finally, I walked over, gently took the mic from her, and said, "Kate, I love you, but this isn't the time or place for this. We're here to celebrate my engagement, not to air out grievances about your personal life." I tried to stay calm and reasonable, but inside, I was furious. She looked at me, face flushed, and said, "You just don't get it, do you? I'm always the one left out, and now you're just going to dismiss how I feel." Typical. The rest of the night was awkward. People tried to salvage the party, but the mood had been totally ruined. Kate spent the rest of the evening sulking and occasionally shooting me angry glares. I was mad, but I didn't want to escalate things, so I just tried to move on and pretend everything was fine. The next day, I texted Kate to check in. I said that while I understood she was feeling down, it wasn't okay for her to make the night about her, and it hurt me that she overshadowed my engagement celebration with her personal issues. I told her I needed some space to process everything and that I hoped we could talk later. Her response was not what I expected. She basically said that I was being selfish and unsupportive and that I didn't care about her feelings. She accused me of gaslighting her and said that it wasn't fair that I was turning her emotions into something wrong. She also mentioned that I was acting like the perfect little princess with my perfect fiancé, and she felt like she was nothing compared to me. It was a lot to take in, but I tried to stay calm and just said that I didn't want to continue this conversation over text, and we could talk in person when I was ready. I didn't talk to her for a couple of days after that. During this time, I spoke with my fiancé, my mom, and a couple of close friends. They all agreed that Kate had crossed a line, but they also said that I should try to be more understanding of her feelings. They all said that she probably felt isolated and overlooked, but they also agreed that she should have never acted that way at my engagement party. I was still really hurt, but I tried to approach the situation with compassion. A few days later, I called Kate and tried to have a conversation with her. I said that I wanted to move forward, but I needed to set some boundaries. I told her that I was disappointed in how she handled herself at the engagement party and that it wasn't okay to make it about her in such an emotional and dramatic way. I said I wanted her to be involved in my life, but I also needed her to respect my big moments and not overshadow them with her personal struggles. Kate didn't take it well. She told me I was too focused on my own happiness and that I was so insensitive to her needs. She said I was a terrible sister for not being there for her the way she needed. I tried to explain that I was there for her in the past and that I was open to supporting her, but this wasn't the way to go about it. The conversation ended with her telling me that I was too wrapped up in my wedding to care about anyone else's feelings. She said that if I was going to be this way, then she didn't want to be part of the wedding at all. She said she wouldn't come, and I didn't try to talk her out of it because at that point, I didn't feel like it was worth the stress. Now, I'm feeling conflicted. My fiancé and I are planning our wedding, and Kate's response still stings. I feel like she completely disregarded my boundaries and is now making me feel guilty for setting them. My parents have been supportive of me, but have also hinted that I should try to make peace with her before the wedding. However, I'm wondering if that would just lead to more drama. I don't want to have a tense, uncomfortable relationship with her at my wedding, but I also don't think it's my responsibility to fix things if she's not willing to meet me halfway. So, AITA for telling Kate she's not welcome at my wedding after she ruined my engagement party. AITA for not attending my brother's wedding because he disinvited me after I told him his fiancée was rude to me. So, a little background. I, 28F, have an older brother, 31M. Let's call him Ben. We've always had a pretty close relationship. We grew up in a small town, and aside from a few teenage squabbles, we never really fought much. He's been dating his fiancée, Rachel, 29F, for about 2 years now, and they're getting married in a few weeks. I don't know Rachel as well as I know Ben, but I've met her a few times, and she seems nice enough. At least, that's what I thought at first. The issue started when I went with Ben and Rachel to a family dinner at our parent house about 3 months ago. I was excited to spend time with them, catch up, and see how the wedding planning was going. At dinner, Rachel started making a lot of passive-aggressive comments about my life, like how I still haven't settled down and how my job isn't as stable as hers. She's a teacher, I work in marketing, and how I've never seemed to get my act together. Now, I'm no stranger to people making comments about my personal life. I'm in my late 20s, unmarried, and don't have kids yet, which is apparently a problem to some people. But Rachel's comments went way beyond usual questions. She outright said that it was sad I still hadn't found someone and that I should really get my priorities in order. This wasn't just a one-off comment, either. She kept going, dropping little jabs throughout the meal. I'm usually good at letting things slide, but after the third or fourth comment, I had enough. I finally snapped and told Rachel that she was being rude and inconsiderate, and that maybe she should focus more on being a kind person rather than critiquing others' life choices. I also pointed out that my life was none of her business. Ben was really uncomfortable, and I could tell that Rachel didn't like being called out, but I thought it was necessary. She gave me a cold look, and the rest of the dinner was pretty tense. Later that night, Ben texted me and asked if we could talk. He said Rachel was upset, and that I'd made her feel uncomfortable by attacking her. I explained that I didn't attack her, but that I had a right to stand up for myself when she was being rude. Ben kept insisting that I should have let it go and not ruined the dinner. I tried to explain that it wasn't just a one-time thing and that Rachel had been making digs at me for a while, but he seemed more concerned about keeping the peace with her than supporting me. I told him I didn't want to argue, but I felt like I had to say something. We left it at that. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, I got an invitation to Ben's wedding. I was excited, but also a little apprehensive given the tension after that dinner. I didn't hear from Ben or Rachel for a while, and then, a couple of days ago, I got a text from Ben saying that they decided it would be best if I didn't attend the wedding. He said that Rachel didn't feel comfortable with me there after the incident at dinner and that it was causing too much drama. Ben didn't exactly say I was uninvited, but it was clear that my presence was no longer wanted. I was shocked. I tried to reach out to Ben, asking him if we could talk about it, but he didn't respond. I texted Rachel to tell her that I felt hurt by the decision and that it seemed unfair for me to be excluded after everything we'd been through as a family. She responded with a simple, "I don't want any drama on my big day. You're not invited." Now, I'm seriously torn. I want to be supportive of my brother, but I also feel like I'm being treated unfairly. I've been a part of this family for my whole life, and suddenly I'm being pushed aside because I spoke up when I felt disrespected. I know Rachel is Ben's fiancée, but I can't help feeling like he's prioritizing her over his own sister. At this point, I'm wondering if I made a mistake. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything and should have just let Rachel's comment slide. But I've never been one to let people walk all over me, and I didn't think I should have to take her constant criticism in silence. But now, I'm the one being cut out. I've considered just showing up anyway, but I know that would cause a huge scene and make things worse, especially with Ben and Rachel already upset. So, AITA for standing up for myself at dinner and not just letting Rachel's rude comment slide? Or am I being unreasonable for not just letting this go and going to the wedding to keep the peace? Should I apologize, or should I stick to my guns and let this family dynamic shift? So, this is a bit of a long story, but I'll try to keep it as clear as possible. I, 30F, have a 4-year-old son, Lucas. He's generally a happy kid, but he has some special needs due to being born prematurely, and that has caused him to be a bit behind in his development compared to other kids his age. We've been doing a lot of therapy and working with specialists, and he's made a lot of progress, but there are still things that are a challenge for him. I have a sister-in-law, Rachel, 29F, who is getting married soon. She's always been very sweet and generally understanding, but we've had a bit of a rocky relationship in recent years. It started when she started dating her now fiancé, Greg. Rachel has a large extended family, and they all seem to be very traditional in a sense that they expect everyone to get along and act a certain way when it comes to big family events. I'm not saying I've ever been difficult or anything, but my son's behavior sometimes doesn't fit the mold of what they expect at family gatherings. For example, he can have meltdowns when he gets overstimulated, and sometimes he needs breaks from loud noises or big groups. I try to manage it as best I can, but it's always a bit of a challenge. A couple of times in the past, Rachel made some passive-aggressive comments about how loud and chaotic things get when my son is around, and it hurt my feelings, but I brushed it off. Now, Rachel and Greg are planning their wedding, and they sent out save-the-date cards a few months ago. The wedding is coming up soon, and naturally, I want to be there to support her. But about a month ago, she made a comment during a family dinner that made me seriously reconsider attending. We were talking about the wedding, and Rachel was discussing how excited she was for it. The topic shifted to the guest list, and she casually mentioned how she was trying to keep the number of children at the wedding very low, saying, "I just don't want it to get too crazy. It's supposed to be a peaceful, intimate day, and kids can really ruin the vibe, you know?" At first, I thought she was talking about general loudness or kids running around, and I get that. Weddings are expensive, and you want them to go smoothly. But then she looked directly at me and said, I just don't know if your son would be able to handle the environment. It might be too much for him." I was taken aback. She didn't say it in an obviously rude way, but the implication was clear, that my son was somehow not fit for a wedding or that his needs might somehow ruin her peaceful day. I've never asked her to do anything special for my son, and I always try to make sure he behaves as well as possible in social situations. So this felt like a punch in the gut. I couldn't believe she said that in front of the whole family, and her fiancé, Greg, didn't say anything either, which honestly stung even more. I tried to keep my cool and just replied with, "Well, I'm sure we'll manage, but thank you for letting me know." The conversation shifted, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. I ended up texting Rachel that night, explaining how hurt I was by her comment. I told her that I understood her desire for a certain atmosphere at the wedding, but that I found it inconsiderate to make assumptions about my son's behavior in front of the family. She responded by saying that she didn't mean to upset me, but that she was just being honest. She said, "You know how kids can be at weddings, and I just don't want to risk it being chaotic." I could feel the tension, and I won't lie, I was really upset. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I wasn't comfortable with her attitude toward my son. It felt like she was distancing herself from him and making him an other in her wedding, and that hurt. After thinking it over for a couple of days, I called her and told her that I would not be attending her wedding. I explained that I would never intentionally disrupt her special day, but I felt that she was making it clear that my son and his needs weren't welcome. I told her that I couldn't be a part of an event that made me feel like I had to hide my child away, and that if she couldn't accept him for who he is, then it wasn't a celebration I could support. Rachel was shocked and upset. She said I was overreacting and that I was making it about me and not about her wedding. She even said that I was being dramatic and selfish. She told me I could bring my son if I really wanted to, but she didn't think it would be a good fit, and it might just make things awkward for everyone involved. I tried to explain that I wasn't doing this to hurt her, but that it just wasn't a situation I could feel comfortable in, especially after the way she made me feel. I haven't heard from her since that conversation, and now I'm wondering if I was too harsh. I don't want to cause drama in the family, but I also don't want to make my son feel like he's unwanted or unwelcome. AITA for telling my sister-in-law I won't be attending her wedding after she made that comment about my child. AITA for refusing to let my sister's friends stay at my house after she made a comment about my parenting. Okay, so this is a bit of a complicated situation, and I'm really torn about whether I overreacted or if I'm in the right. For context, I, 29F, have a 4-year-old son, Ben. I've been a single mom for about 2 years, and while it's not always easy, I've had a good support system in my family and a few close friends. My sister, Emma, 31F, and I have always been pretty close, but lately, she's been more involved in my life than I'd like. Emma has a good group of friends, and one of them, Lisa, 33F, has been coming around a lot more lately. Lisa is single and works from home, so she has a lot of free time. She's been hanging out at my place with Emma, and I've been trying to be friendly and accommodating, though I'm not super comfortable with having people over all the time, especially since Ben has a pretty set routine. I like to keep things calm and quiet at home to make sure he's not overstimulated. The incident happened last week. I was having a rough day with Ben, and Emma and Lisa came over. Ben was being his usual energetic self, but he was a bit more whiny than usual because he hadn't napped properly. I was trying to get him to eat his lunch, but he kept throwing it on the floor, which got me frustrated. Emma and Lisa were sitting at the kitchen table, and I could tell they were watching me. Eventually, I had to raise my voice a little to get Ben to calm down, so we could just get through the meal. Ben didn't cry or anything, but he was clearly upset. After that, Lisa made a comment that I've been stewing over ever since. She looked at me and said, "I can't believe you're yelling at him. It's so unhealthy for kids to be raised in that kind of environment. I'd never raise a kid like that." I don't know if she meant it to sound as harsh as it did, but it really struck a nerve. I've always tried to be a patient parent, but some days are just harder than others, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having a little frustration. We're all human, right? I didn't respond right away. I was just so shocked, and honestly, I felt like I was being judged by someone who doesn't even have kids. Emma seemed a little uncomfortable too, but she didn't say anything to defend me. Instead, she just awkwardly changed the subject. After they left, I texted Emma and told her I didn't appreciate what Lisa said and that I felt judged. Emma texted back saying she agreed it was a bit much, but that Lisa was just trying to give me advice out of concern. I told her that I didn't ask for advice, especially from someone who has no experience with kids, and that I didn't want Lisa coming over to my house again unless it was just to hang out with Emma. I didn't want her making any more comments about my parenting. Now, Emma is upset with me. She said I was being too harsh on Lisa and that she was just trying to help. She also said I should be more understanding since Lisa has a lot of insight into child rearing from working with kids in the past. To me, that still doesn't justify her making comments about my son or how I handle him. I don't care how much insight she has. She isn't the one raising my kid. I told Emma I didn't appreciate her not standing up for me when Lisa said what she did, and now we're kind of in a standoff. Emma thinks I should apologize to Lisa for being so rude, but I don't think I owe her an apology. If anything, I think Lisa owes me an apology for the comment she made about my parenting. But Emma insists I'm making a big deal out of nothing, and that it's not worth letting this come between us. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's friend stay at my house after she made that comment? Or am I being too sensitive about the whole thing? I just don't think anyone should be telling me how to raise my kid, especially when they don't know what it's really like. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she disinvited me because of my disrespectful behavior. So, I, 30M, have a sister, 32F, named Emma. We've had a pretty good relationship growing up, though there have always been some tensions. I was always the troublemaker in the family, while Emma was the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect manners, the whole deal. Our parents were always praising her, and I was often overlooked. I never really minded it, though, because I have a strong sense of self, and I wasn't looking for validation from them. Still, it always rubbed me the wrong way that she was treated like a saint while I was just the rebel who couldn't get things right. Fast forward to last year when Emma got engaged. She asked me to be her best man, which I thought was a big deal, and honestly, I was happy for her. However, planning for the wedding started to reveal some cracks in the relationship. My sister had always been a bit controlling, and she was determined that her wedding would be perfect, a massive, expensive affair with all the bells and whistles. Think extravagant venue, designer dress, the whole 9 yards. The problem started when she began making requests that felt a little too much. She insisted that I pay for a huge chunk of the wedding costs because it's an honor for me to be in this position, and it's what family does for each other. I don't make a ton of money. I'm doing fine, but I'm not rich. I've got student loans, bills, and my own life to take care of. So I told her that I could help out, but I couldn't cover everything she was asking for. She got upset, but I figured we could work out a reasonable compromise. Then came the whole wedding party drama. Emma wanted her bridesmaids to all wear these very expensive, custom dresses. She gave me the bill for my best man's suit, which was ridiculous. Almost $2,000 for a tuxedo, and expected me to pay for it up front. Again, I said I could help, but not cover everything. She seemed fine with it, but then she started criticizing everything I suggested. She didn't like the venue I suggested for the bachelor party. She didn't like the speech I wanted to give. She didn't like the playlist I suggested for the reception. Everything I did seemed to upset her. Around this time, I started to feel like my involvement in the wedding was becoming more of a burden than an honor. I wasn't being treated like someone important in her life. I was being treated like an unpaid vendor. The more I expressed my concerns, the more she'd snap at me. She even told me once, if you can't afford to do this right, then maybe you shouldn't be involved at all. Now, I'm not a complete asshole. I understand that weddings are expensive, and I get that she wants everything to be perfect. But the way she was treating me started to feel less like a celebration of love and more like an exercise in flexing power over me. The last straw came when she insisted on having a no-children rule for the wedding, which meant I couldn't bring my 4-year-old daughter. That's when I lost my patience. I told her that this was really hurtful, and it wasn't just about the wedding. It felt like she didn't want me to be involved in any capacity unless I was willing to pay for things I couldn't afford. I explained that she was putting me in a position where I felt like I had to choose between being financially burdened or being excluded entirely. She said I was being dramatic and selfish for even bringing it up. That's when I said, if you're going to treat me like this, maybe I should just bow out entirely. I thought that was the end of it, but instead, she completely flipped out. She told me that if I wasn't going to support her fully, I didn't deserve to be at the wedding. She disinvited me right then and there, and that's when things really went off the rails. She said, I don't need a best man who can't even afford to show up for me. At this point, I was honestly stunned. I never heard her speak to me like that before. And the fact that she was willing to disinvite me over money just felt so petty and cruel. I refused to apologize or beg to be invited back. I told her that if she wanted to exclude me from her big day over something so trivial, then maybe she didn't really see me as the brother she claimed to care about. Now, my parents are on her side, saying I should have just swallowed my pride and made it work. They say family should support each other, and they think I'm being stubborn and unreasonable. They've even offered to help me pay for my share of the wedding costs, but I'm still not sure I want to go. I feel like I'd just be reinforcing that it's okay for her to treat me like this. I've tried to reach out to Emma to smooth things over, but she's still furious, telling me that she doesn't want someone who can't even make an effort at her wedding. She's gone so far as to tell all our relatives that I'm refusing to support her on her special day, which, of course, has created a lot of tension in the family. So, Reddit. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding and ultimately pulling out as her best man after she disinvited me over what I felt were unfair expectations. I'm torn between standing my ground and just giving in to keep the peace. But at the same time, I feel like I've already been disrespected enough that I don't know if I want to go back to that dynamic. Am I being the asshole here? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.